Hi, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I have the complete pleasure today of speaking with Ashley Young. She's going to talk about her journey to Playa del Carmen. I'm like speaking to a lot of people from Playa, so just so you guys know, that's the hot spot, literally physically hot spot and growing hot spot. But no, this is such a beautiful thing. There's such a thriving community there of Black expats, and just, learning about how everyone's getting into Mexico, how they ended up in Mexico and their experience in Mexico, I think is just been inspiring for a lot of people. So I thank you first for being here, reaching out to me. We're going to talk about her aspirations and her business. This is Playa. That's the name of it. And I'm really happy that we're here to just kind of keep showcasing more and more people that are moving to Mexico, sharing their journey, but also sharing like their endeavors and their business and all these entrepreneurs. Like I'm already a serial entrepreneur, but like just speaking to all these different people, it just feels so good. So I'll let her introduce herself. Thank you all for being here. Don't forget to subscribe. I always forget to say that. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification button so you can get my new videos in your email or however that works. And like, share, and comment if you have questions about anything here. Feel free to ask. I try to check them as often as I can. And even if you have specific questions about my guests, you can put that there as well. They'll either check or I'll forward that message on because I've had that happen as well. So go ahead, Ashley, tell us all about yourself.
Well, thank you for even having me. I really do appreciate it. Love your platform and love everything that you're doing for the community in Mexico and even outside of Mexico. It's really amazing. So yeah, everyone, I am Ashley Young, originally from Kentucky. But I was living in the DC area before I moved here. And that's really where I lived for almost 10 years. And, that's kind of where I grew up. I have a background in marketing, which is kind of where my passion lies in helping companies grow successful in marketing. But also that's why I'm able to, be wherever working remotely has changed, I think definitely in the pandemic, but also just before that. I think, if you worked in an industry where you could do your job from anywhere, that was proven with the pandemic, but a lot of companies had already, kind of put that foot forward. And, luckily I was able to work for a company that was doing that and other companies to follow.
Nice. Was this your first stop in terms of digital nomading?
Actually, I love the DR. And so I was in the DR for a month and a half.
Okay.
At the beginning of the year, I was in the DR for a month and a half. And then I left there and went to Costa Rica. I was in San Jose for another month, which was truly amazing. I think San Jose is so beautiful. The people there with the, term of life, pura vida, which is pure life there. It's just so beautiful. I don't think I ever felt so just in awe of nature and just the natural beauty in a place like I have in Costa Rica. And then after Costa Rica, it's very funny. I met some really good friends in the DR, and I was kind of coming towards the end of my trip in Costa Rica, and I didn't know where I was going to go next. I knew it wasn't going to be back to the States. I knew that. But I didn't really know exactly where I wanted to go. And so friends that I had met in the DR asked if I wanted to join them to Playa. And that was the first time I'd ever heard of Playa. I had been to Tulum and Cancun. I had been to Mexico City. I had, gone to all these other places in Mexico, like popular tourist places, but I hadn't stepped foot in Playa. And I'm always one to just say, yeah, sure, let's go.
That's interesting that you've been to Tulum, because that's not super far away. You had never actually heard of Playa, because most people hear of Cancun and Playa and not so much Tulum. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, that's true. And so I was like, I'll do it. And I did like a little bit of research, but like nothing really, too deep diving where I was, okay, where we go. They kind of planned everything. It was like, oh, we found this amazing space here and everything like that. There were a couple of groups that they were like, hey, if you want to join, join on the Facebook groups and, information of what you're looking for and safety precautions and things like that. So I did join that before coming, but again, just not really having any kind of clue about what Playa had to offer.
Nice.
I kind of just, and I got here probably a little bit before they did, like in a week and a half, and I'm a solo traveler. So it was really important for me to kind of have that time by myself in a new place. And I started noticing all of these African Americans here. It was just interesting. And my experience, I can only speak from my experience, but all the African Americans that I interacted with were very nice. Like everyone was just speaking to me. I'm a very social person, so it's happy. I get excited when I see people and they actually respond to me and they actually greet me back. And that's what I was noticing with the community here, and it just gave me like a lot of joy. And so I asked the two ladies who were actually, one was from Ukraine and the other one was from Puerto Rico, actually asked them, I said, did you all know that there was this, African American community here? And they didn't. And I was like, wow, okay.
I love it.
Like, oh, wow, all right. But we started to like meet other people, and they started telling us about the African American Facebook groups and WhatsApp groups. And then that started allowing me to see like, wow, there are a lot of African Americans here who have moved, like gotten up and literally just left their life as they know it in the US, and they've moved here. And it made me proud. It made me proud. And I just a little bit longer to see where things went. And here I am.
I love it. I love it. So how long did you hang out in Costa Rica?
So I was there for a month.
Okay. So you were there for a month and you were in the DR for
a little over a month.
Okay. So you were kind of just like scoping it all out, doing your thing. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. What did you think about Costa Rica? I mean, obviously you really enjoyed it, but now that you're in Mexico, like what are your comparisons? Because I feel like that's a hot spot for people who want to expat to somewhere. And I feel like Costa Rica has always been also one of those top 3 countries that we consider.
Mm-hmm. It is. I loved it. I stayed in San Jose most of the time, so I wasn't near a beach. The closest beach to me was Jaco Beach, which is a 2-hour drive away. And when you get to some of the further beaches, it's like 3 hours, but they're still beautiful. Manuel Antonio is about 3.5 hours away. Puerto Viejo is, I think, 4 hours away. And those are great beaches. And I think that's where mostly people spend their time, are the, beach towns. And so being that I was in the city, every weekend I was going to the beach, but during the week I was in the city, and it kind of reminded me of this. And, I quickly learned about myself that I don't like the city life. I hate sitting in traffic. I have a car and drive somewhere. I'm a walker. I love to walk or bike to get around. And that kind of reminded me of that. And I couldn't see myself being in the city again. And so even though I love the beaches, I just felt like as far as being able to hop on a plane in like a short amount of time, like it would have taken me a little bit longer to do that. Being in Costa Rica, if I would have stayed in one of the smaller beach towns, I would have had to drive like 2 hours to go. Whereas here in Mexico, being in Playa, we're about 45 minutes from the Cancun airport. Not as close as being in Cancun, but still like 45 minutes away from the airport.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Because we're about an hour away from the closest airport as well, because we're in San Miguel, which is central Mexico. I mean, I've said this so many times, but I should just say it again because people might not have watched this video or my other videos, I should say. So we are about an hour away from Querétaro, which has a international airport. And I lost you on video.
Someone asked to share their Wi-Fi.
Oh, okay, we're good. And then the other airport on the west side of where we are is called Leon. So I just kind of wanted to, since we're talking to you from Playa, I want people to also have an understanding, again, like if this is your first time ever watching this series and this is the first one you're tapping into, that we are like uber far away from Playa del Carmen. So Mexico's that big. And that's also part of the reason why I do these, is because people don't always have like a geographical understanding that it's a huge country with 32 states and a lot going on. Right. So Playa is actually about, if I were to jump in my car, it would take me about a day to get there. So like 22 hours if I just drove nonstop. I looked it up once because I had to tell a family member of mine who was inviting me like to come and have a drink with them tomorrow in Cancun. I was like, no,
Tomorrow?
nowhere near. Yeah, this was a while ago, but they were like, hey, I'm going to be in Cancun tomorrow. Let's get together and have a drink. And I was like, duh. So just saying, that was a little piece of education.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's pretty amazing. So culturally, like what did you find the differences to be for, or so far, like as far as being in even all the three different places? I mean, even though you didn't live there, but I think you were there long enough to kind of say, Mexico's this way, DR is this way, Costa Rica. When I think of Costa Rica, because I have not been to Costa Rica, I feel like it's probably one of the more organized, Latin countries in this region. But that's just from conversations I've had with people. But what did you think from a real experience?
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, Costa Rica, it was like the culture was very like established for me. When I was in the city, like I said, it was like I was in the States. Everything was running smoothly. I never had any problems with the internet. Everything drove really well. They had Uber. Now in Costa Rica, Uber is not technically legal, but they had,
Okay.
yeah, there were some ways to get Uber around in Costa Rica, which made it very, great for me. And I think people, a lot of expats in the city. So on the side where you were right by the beach, there were lots of expats and, just nomads living there for a short amount of time. But there weren't a lot of expats that I saw in Costa Rica as far as like just the, where everybody was there to, do things like that. When I was in the Dominican Republic, I stayed in Punta Cana called Socorrales. And that beach town, like it was like a small area, all of the apartments and hotels, they were very close together. It was very small community. I would say within about 2 weeks I knew just about everybody there and all the businesses.
Interesting. Do you know what their population was? What was the population there?
Well, Punta Cana is just a little bit above the population of Puerto Plata, which is a little bit over 1 million, I believe. Okay. And then smaller pot of Socorales was probably very, very small because it was such a small community, probably about 20,000. Like it wasn't it wasn't that big. And now I have to go back. It literally wasn't that big at all. And then, during the pandemic too, it, just wasn't a lot of people there at all. You could really tell was affecting their businesses. I mean, I don't think I've ever been in Punta Cana where it wasn't like just filled, like the beaches were filled any day of the week. And there would be like random Thursdays where just maybe 20 people on like the beach at a beach club or something like that.
And when were you there? I know you were there during the pandemic, but what time frame was it?
January. It was like
of this year.
January of this year, right into like mid-February. So yeah.
Interesting. So they really haven't, even at that time, they weren't like probably as active as Mexico.
Yeah, they were not as open as Mexico at all. Like they had their limits, they had their curfews. I remember at one point the curfew during the week was at 5 p.m. and then the curfew on the weekend was 12 p.m. which is very hard.
Wow. That's kind of awkward. Well, I can see the logic because most people are off on the weekend, so they were trying to kind of limit that. That's interesting. So with the DR, since we're talking about it, what were the restrictions for tourists? Like, did they shut down? Because Mexico never really closed their borders. Did DR have any of that happen, or were they shut down at any point? Do you know?
They shut down for a little bit, but they kind of opened quickly back up, like Mexico, because I was trying to look at places, and I had seen, because I'd actually come to Mexico in November, but I was not wanting to come here at first, and so that's why I chose the DR, because I had kept, there was a blog that I would follow that had weekly updates of the countries that were allowing US citizens in and what was required. And when I saw Dominican pop up like on one of the weekly updates, I was like, yep, that's where I'm going first.
I love it. I love it. And what's the blog? Share it, because I'm sure someone's going to ask me that question.
Yeah, I will share the blog. It was like honestly what kept me hopeful during the pandemic in 2020 when I was like looking for countries to travel to, because it was things where you want to travel on your own term, and so being stuck, so to speak, in a place just I don't know, it made me scared. So I was like always trying to look for a way out.
Oh, I know. And it was tough, definitely tough last year. I think most people were, like either trapped somewhere, whether it was they were trapped in the US or trapped somewhere else. But also at some point, I think we all were just feeling, not all, but a lot of folks were just feeling like, you know what, I got to get out of here. And I feel like a bat out of hell. I know I did in June of 2020, with the whole just the school thing. Like, I'm really involved in my son's learning and things like that, but it just felt so crazy. And, we took all of the stresses on of the pandemic, all the uncertainty, all the, just listening to the news, all the deaths, and, just feeling really hopeless for either your current situation or for your, what you were watching, what was happening with humanity in general. And I think we were just, it was sort of like things were fine. And then obviously they weren't. But I remember in June, I was just like, okay, let's do COVID in another place. Like, let's just rent a house somewhere else and let's drive over there and let's stay out of there. And I remember literally just feeling like this is really where that term bat out of hell comes from, because that's how I felt. I was just like a bat out of hell. I was like, I don't care. Like, pack up the car. Let's just go over there and do whatever's happening over there, as long as they let us in the house or renting this space. So we were still like isolated more or less, but we were closer to a beach, where we were really close to a beach or beaches, and more outdoors. I mean, there's a lot of outdoor stuff to do here too, but it was just a whole, it's like I'm going on vacation and I'm going somewhere else, and I'm going to still keep, being cautious. But that feeling of just like, I remember even with the school, I was just like, I don't even, they're like, oh, you can go here, log on online to get grades. I was like, I don't care. I don't even know what his grades were. I still don't know what he got for third grade. I don't care. I didn't even care. I was like, we're out. See ya. So I'm just kind of like curious, what was the blog or what is the blog's name that you tap into? Just because I'm sure someone would want to know. I want to know, actually.
Because I had it bookmarked. I mean, like, it was like quick access and everything.
Okay.
It in the comments.
Okay, perfect.
So helpful. And even I think now, because when things kind of, when the second variant came out, some of the countries closed back up again, or at least, put the restrictions back on again. It kept up to date with that as well. So yeah, it's still useful, very, very useful right now.
Awesome. Okay. No, that's good to know, because I know a lot of people do just that. They kind of are like, get up and go, especially if they have that ability to do the whole digital nomad kind of, movements and lifestyles. And I think Mexico really offered a lot of folks this opportunity to be able to come here, settle for a little while. I know they're really cracking down right now, and I'm trying to set up a meeting with an immigration person that lives in Mexico and is Mexican, to just kind of talk to us about what's happening. Hopefully, yeah, I think so. I think, and two, it's helpful from the standpoint that, people aren't trying to internalize that I'm being stereotyped or racially profiled, because I don't think that's what's happening. I mean, I think some of it might be that to some degree, but I don't think it's from a race standpoint. I think it's just from the fact that, we tend to come, and I say we as US citizens, and we just kind of settle, because Mexico hasn't really given a lot of really harsh guidelines, like the US, and you just can't do that there. Right. And it's funny, because I'm following a local lady. She does all immigration here. She's amazing. She has a lot of information, but I've been following like all these posts, and I was I was reading a post from this morning about, it's a little convoluted, so I'm not going to try to re-explain it in its totality, but she was saying how grandson who's Mexican and his mom who is, I don't know if it was partial, but she's an older lady. She was just coming into the country with him, and they only gave her 10 days because she didn't have any information about a return. So they gave her 10 days, and apparently they got it fixed because, you know, they know some people here, and they, you know, they have Mexican connections and whatever. And someone, you know, like a bunch of people were making comments about this. I just kind of put the wow face, like, oh my gosh, you know, but in saying all of that, I feel like in some ways it is the country's fault to some degree because they haven't been strict. Do you know what I'm saying? They haven't really, and this is, you know, and this might be culturally tacky for me to say, but I feel like this is kind of the culture of Mexico, is that things are very inconsistent. So people take their laws for granted, but then when it's like they're ready to enforce the laws, it can be very harsh. And unfortunately, at this time, I think, you know, there's a lot of repercussions that are falling back on not just current people who want to be as expats, but people are here legally. Maybe, you know, we're so used to walking around with, like, I've always just had my Mexican driver's license on me, but now I'm like, make sure I bring my card, you know, make sure I have it. Because I mean, I remember even in the US, I had a green card in the US for a lot of years. I never walked around with that. I mean, you know, I was always afraid of losing it. But, you know, now that things are kind of like happening here, I'm like, okay, you know, I don't want to run into any detention center issues and things like that. But I do feel like in some ways it's been so lax. There's so many people that were able to come and go, come and go, come and go, come and go. All people. There's not just Black people, everyone, tourists, you know, people who are living here for so many years. So in saying all of that, I think it's really important for us to just kind of stay abreast on what's happening around us, and, you know, making sure that we're on top of things. So yes, we'll definitely share that blog and what's happening and why and whatever. I know there's several videos that have come out this week as well with some other Black expats that live here. But I think it's really important for us to kind of say Mexico never shut down, and hopefully it doesn't. Right. You know, I think it would really affect their economy as well. Not necessarily where they can't survive, but I think it would really affect their economy. But I wanted to circle back really quickly. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to add that I think that too, with maybe, you know, they felt like they were very lax because they were trying to get their economy back to, like, you know, exactly where it is. Because even though, like you said, they didn't really close it, you know, people weren't really traveling as much. So right. Yes, they were. But there was still a drastic drop in traveling during COVID, you know, for every country, period, even the ones that were fully open, because Brazil was another, you know, country that didn't fully close. So, you know, I think right now it's like, it's getting like to them of the point where it's like, oh, wow, like now we're at that top, that's here, and now we can't handle it. You know,
no, it's true.
Better job of tracking it. I feel like that plays a part in it as well. So I feel like maybe that's just where it's coming from, because I did watch the video that you posted in your group this week with the couple that, you know, kind of like broke down what was happening right now, and, you know, them just kind of reiterating that this is everybody, like, is on the same page, from the government to the police officers to immigration, like everybody's on the same page of how to move forward with, you know, what we see going on right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's smart for people to be in the know, because I think last year it wasn't just that they didn't close the borders, but they also really, because of the pandemic and the situation of people being kind of stuck here, they weren't able to, you know, go back because there weren't the same amount of available flights or access to get back so you could renew your visas and whatever. So they were really being very lax about letting them be overextended and overstayed on. So yeah, anyway, we digress. But I wanted to say really quickly with Costa Rica, since we're talking about that, and then we can move on. I have a friend that lives there. Her and her husband, they've lived there for a while. They've been interested in moving to Mexico. And this is kind of, you know, I'm not trying to open a Pandora's box, but, you know, there are varying viewpoints on vaccination or non-vaccination. People like to, get into whatever. I've come to the conclusion on a personal level, it is a personal choice. And I mind my business and you mind yours, and I do my thing, you do yours. And that's pretty much it. I have no viewpoints or opinions about it. I just don't want people imposing their thoughts on me. But what I wanted to say with Costa Rica is she's actually considering moving to Mexico because Costa Rica has like really strict mandates right now about that. So since we're talking expatting and all this other stuff, like before you consider going there, like I think they let you in without a vaccination, but you're not able to move around freely.
Well, so I was there in February. So this was still very, before the vaccine started like getting, available and, and everybody was able to get it. And they didn't require a COVID test to come in, but they did require you to have travel insurance that covered COVID. And you had to entire length of your stay. And if you didn't, then they were able to, kind of kick you out of the country or give you like 24 to extend that travel insurance to cover COVID. And there weren't really any restrictions, like you were able to go anywhere. They did have curfews as well, like with the DR, but their curfews weren't strict throughout the week. It was 8 p.m. On the weekends. I believe it was 7 p.m. So it really wasn't that as strict as far as curfew goes. And they just wanted to make sure that if anything happened to you, COVID related, you were able to cover those expenses because they would not be covered.
Yeah, well, that's changed. My friend actively lives there, and she said that they're not able to really move around because they are not interested in doing the vaccine. And they're only allowed in the small, because she contacted me about moving here to Mexico. And in the moment, they are only allowed to pretty much grocery shop and go to the bank. They're not allowed in restaurants. They're not allowed to go to malls, and just there's like this really like strict thing. And she was telling me that a lot of people, she has like a blog as well, and people were constantly asking questions, and a lot of people, that's like those numbers have dwindled because of this mandate. So I just kind of wanted to say that, like if you do plan to go to Costa Rica and, you're not vaccinated and it's not your thing, like that might not be the place for you. So definitely do your homework on it. Yeah. So that's that. With where you are now in Playa, like, tell me about your business. This is Playa. I would love to hear, like, how did you kind of end up falling into, not say falling into it, but to birthing this idea? Like, what is it about? And, what's your intention?
Yeah. So this is Playa. It is a website solely for, well, not solely, but it was created to be for African-American expats and travelers here in Playa, to be a resource and a guide. Because when I first got here, I myself, and along with other people that I was seeing, had so many questions of where do I find this? How do I get here? What is there to do here? I need to know this. And, I just kept seeing that over and over again. And I kept seeing the same questions over and over again, whether it was in a Facebook group, whether it was in a WhatsApp group, or even in just conversation with people. And I started to look to see if there was a website for, African-American travelers that gave you that information. And I didn't see it. I didn't see it. Like I searched, I did my homework, working in marketing, I had to do a lot of searching online and things like that. And I just didn't see it. And so, I started to keep track of different things that were happening. There was a friend that had started to do a little something on a Google spreadsheet, and she gave it to me and she goes, Ashley, you can do whatever, with it that you please. I think when it first got started, there was maybe like 20 Black-owned businesses on the list, and that Black-owned businesses that kind of weren't even there anymore. There were restaurants, but maybe it was maybe 2 or 3 things in each, different category, if you want to call it that, that were there. And then there wasn't even anything for like a calendar of events. And so I really took that spreadsheet. I started adding to it every day, multiple times a day throughout the week, just from what I was seeing in the, Facebook groups, how people respond, whether they were recommending a driver, whether they were recommending a doctor, recommending a hairstylist, those things. I started keeping track of that just on the Google spreadsheet first. And, the same events, adding events, reoccurring events that were happening, events that were coming up. So that's at first what I was sharing with people. And I was like, hey, I feel like something, bigger is going to happen. And this Is Playa came because, I don't know, I feel like in certain times you're in a place and you're like, oh, this is just this place. Like, this is just, whatever. I mean, I would say that when I was in DC, I'm like, oh, this is just DC. That's an point where I was saying that a lot about Playa. I was like, this is Playa, fire show every day. This is Playa.
Right.
And so when I was talking to a friend about the idea that I had, I was like, this is going to happen. Like, I'm going to do it. But it actually, happened that This Is Playa was available as like a name, as a domain name, and it was just kind of fate. It fell, in open arms. The person that I was talking to about it is a web developer, so we became partners in doing it. He loved the concept and the idea, and was just actually amazed at how much information that I was like keeping up with and keeping track of and everything like that. And yeah, this summer we launched This Is Playa website, and it has grown into this amazing resource for so many people that live here and people that, are traveling here and trying to find things to do, trying to find resources.
I think that's amazing. And this is why I keep saying this type of thing over and over. It's like, even if you do something else, that if there's something you have a desire to do in another country or another place, it doesn't necessarily have to be in Mexico, but just in general, think about how you can make that happen and start connecting and putting it out there. Because I really feel like once you are open to receiving things that will come to you to make this happen, it's there. There's certain things that I've been talking about, I'm like, I want to do, but I haven't verbalized them. And then the last year I've been verbalizing things, and other things have happened. And little by little, I keep meeting people that are either like yourself, doing something, and it's just like, oh, okay. And then, you met someone who can help you execute it and help you kind of breathe life into it. So, in saying this, I say this in every single conversation, every interview, it's like, just consider your position. Definitely try to make a plan, but don't just try to see the end of the road. Don't try to see the road straight or the end of it. Just start the ball rolling, let it go and start doing. I mean, even with my channel, I was like a year ago, I didn't know what I was setting it up for. I knew what I wanted, what my intention was, and here I am a year later, and it's like, oh, people are interested in this. Even for me, starting even Black SMA, someone told me this 2.5 years ago, and I was like, yeah, who's going to want to come to San Miguel? There aren't a lot of Black folks here. Who's going to be interested? And this year I've seen so many Black faces and people that are joining, and they're just interested, so it's like, don't undermine or, be your own problem. You know what I'm trying to say? And I'm saying this, and not that you are, I'm saying it as the audience, think about what it is that you're offering and look at it as a gift, because it is a gift. We all have that, right? We all have a gift to give. And I feel that when you believe in yourself, you'll find other people that will start believing in your dream and your intuition and whatever it is as well. Because, I think what you're doing is a need. I said that a couple of years ago when I moved to San Miguel. I was just like, gosh, even the way they operate in this town from a everybody perspective, it's just hard to find information. The only place is going to Facebook and asking a question, and sometimes being subjected to very snarky people.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And, it's like you ask a simple question and then suddenly you're in an argument with 10 people about nothing, right? I've seen it happen. And I'm just like, she just asked about who can make a cake. Not me, but I've seen this. And it was like, oh, you're having a party. Don't you see it's a pandemic? And I'm like, how do you know the party is not for the person in their household? What? You can't eat cake with your family now? It's just I see these things online and people asking really simple questions. One of my friends asked a really simple question because she had a guest coming, and she asked a question about having someone, is there anyone that could come and clean like in that moment because she was having a guest, right? You don't know if that person's handicapped or there's some disability or whatever. And people are just like, oh, ha, 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 just spit my coffee out because, you know, you can't clean your own house. And, you know, it's like, if you don't have an answer, then just keep scrolling, you know? So the point of saying that is it would be nice to be able to go to a place in your city or wherever, you know, in Mexico, and just be able to find stuff, you know, and be able to tap into things without feeling like, you know, you're going to get your head chewed off. So I think that's fantastic. Absolutely.
As you know, it started to take off. I mean, and I had, you know, known just building it, I was like, you know, this is going to be great. Like, you know, just kind of taking off here. But then other people in other cities of other countries, in like the African-American communities were reaching out and saying, hey, like, this is great. Like, you know, what other cities are you going to do it in? Which got my like wheels turning. And so now like my partner and I have like, you know, this track of other countries that we'll be visiting and that we'll be starting, you know, another This Is in their countries to just like, you know, keep this information going and to keep the information flowing, because like we said, it is needed. You don't want to have to feel like you're going to get your head chopped off every time you ask a question, you know, nor do you want, I feel like, too, asking those repetitive questions, you know, sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, and two, you never know, like what kind of, are people even going to understand what you're looking for, whatever the case might be. And I think too, even from the Black standpoint, you know, because that's why we're all here in this particular forum. You know, everyone's welcome to watch. So I like to say that this is, you know, I have a lot of people in my group, and they just vibe with us for whatever reason. I literally have like people who are like, I found my tribe, and you know, they just like it here. So I'm fine with that. I have no, just so my audience knows, I have no qualms with it. But the purpose was to show life from our lens, and that's really why I started this platform. But to say all of that, like I was also running into a lot of those same things, especially at the beginning of this year, where I remember what started this, and I know I've said this in some other interviews, but what started me to launch Black Owned Mexico wasn't to create division. It was to bring our Black community together for us to be able to find resources that we need. You know, it's the end of story. Like Asians do this all the time. They open their little shops and stores. They don't care if you can't read the can. It's like, if you can't see it and understand the picture, whatever, you know. So you know, when I was the same online, I remember I was looking at something and someone asked in one group, someone made a comment in one group about them getting their shea butter. She was all excited, like, oh, I ordered, and then someone in another group then that same night asked the question, and that's what's prompted me to start Black Owned, because I was just like, God, you know, like, we're all spread out, you know, it's a big country, we're pockets of people. There's got to be someone who can do our hair. There's got to be someone who has access to products, or even be able to promote local products that we can use, or give information, you know. I mean, yes, I can tap into YouTube and try to find how to make my own aloe vera hair mix or whatever. I don't want to, though. I just don't. I'm not a hairdresser. And I don't feel like it. You know, I got other things that I'm like interested in doing. So yes, I can do it. And yes, I have. But my point simply is that there are people here, and that's how we've been able to connect these dots. You know, like even as Yada in Playa, we found her because of Black Owned Mexico. You know, I was just like, God, is there anyone here that's a mobile hairdresser? Like anyone, I don't care where you are in Mexico, like we will fly you here. Where are you? And that's what happened. That's how we connected with her. We were able to find her online through this platform, because it's like, I would have never found her any other way. So in saying that, it's what you're doing is a fantastic thing. It's connecting the dots. It's connecting people to things that they would otherwise, you know, not maybe find or have access to. We recently found a girl in Querétaro, because we have these platforms, and she's Afro-Colombiano. And people think like, oh, this is Afro-American. No, this is Afro-anybody. Like if you have something that I can use and you're Afro-Mexican, Colombian, Guatemalan, whatever, I don't care. If you know that my hair is kinky and you know how to do it, come on down. Like I'm finding you. Like this girl, she speaks no English. Okay. She is beautiful Black woman, and she does hair, she does weaves, she does braids, she colors, and I am like, hallelujah. Okay. I wouldn't have found her if we didn't have this platform. We wouldn't have found each other. And she's been living in Mexico for 7 years. I would have never found her, you know? And it's funny because my friend who kind of, you know, figured this all out, she said to me, she's never actually done a Black person's hair in Mexico. Can you believe that? She was coloring everyone else's hair, and we're all out here floating around like,
right.
Where's the person who could do my hair? You know, I'm like, I have all the products, I have the weaves, I have the extensions, I have the braiding hair, the whole nine, or just natural hair. You know what I'm trying to say? So that's the intention. And I really hope that we will all, Black folks, continue supporting, you know, the endeavors of each other. Always keep it in mind, you know, because this is a very key point, that we should support the locals as much as we can, hire them, buy their products if they have stuff to offer, put them in our stores and shops where we can, where it makes sense, but don't not do stuff because, you know, it's like, you know, if there's a need and that need needs to be filled, do it.
Do it. Yeah. And kind of piggyback of that, like with the website, like I made sure, and one of the things that I really love is having like the recommended and referred business listings for the business owners here in Playa, because one of I always highlight every Wednesday, you know, one business here in Playa, and that could be a Black-owned business, or it could be a Mexican business that's here that, you know, is really you know, has a really large following, or is just received well by the community. And one thing that I've noticed, because I've gotten like, you know, messages from those, you know, Mexican companies that are here, is that they love it. They're like barber, like my barber. Had like so many references, and they're like, yeah, they said they saw you, they saw me on This Is Playa, and like, yeah, thank you. And so like, I'm also helping, you know, the community here, the local community, but I'm also helping, you know, because I also have a Black-owned business directory for Playa specifically, so that when people come here and they want, you know, that those businesses here, you know, they have that, they have those connections. We started out at just 30 Black-owned businesses when I created the site, and now, you know, that it's been open for 3 months, or, you know, live for 3 months, we're now up to 59 Black-owned businesses.
I love it. I have people on, I can add, make sure you add me, but I have, and I'm not in Playa, I'm in Mexico, but I do have a list that I started when I first launched Black-owned Mexico. So I'll send, and it's mostly like people that are like digital things. So I don't know if it's applicable, but I'll send it to you. And it's just, again, it's to promote, it was for YouTubers, people who have Facebook pages that are kind of, you know, Black centric and whatever. But speaking of, yes, I've done the same here. And on Black SMA, I've added people that do a lot of services. And these are all local people, you know, that are either bilingual or not, but just kind of what they do. Because I always am in amazement of what can come to my doorstep in Mexico. So you guys really, like, seriously, like, if you're not here yet and you're considering moving to Mexico, like, tap in, because you get a little spoiled, you know, and I feel that we're able to pour into the economy. And one thing I saw yesterday, this is kind of tying into that, was a comment that someone put on a page in Morelia. This was just a general expat page. And, you know, they were like, don't say everything is so cheap, because it's not necessarily cheap for a Mexican or a local person. And one of the things that I'm always grateful about is the fact that some luxuries that would be an extreme luxury in the US is now affordable to me in Mexico. So anytime that I can kind of, like, you know, give and pour into that specific thing, then I try. But I wanted to say, like, you know, for example, there's, yes, the Afro-Colombiano, who I think is married to a Mexican, and she's, you know, amazing. But, you know, there's like local people who do massages, local people that will deliver food and shop for you, local people that will come to your house and take care of your pet. I have a lady that comes here. We have a podiatrist that we use. I've used him often, but especially for like my older relatives that visit, you know, and they're just like, oh, oh, I should see if I could do this in the US. I'm like, yeah. So now, they're like looking at like, what will my insurance pay? And it's just something that happens here where I feel like you can give back to people here and it's affordable, So I think that that's fantastic. I think it's amazing. Mhm. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
I,
Yeah, I was just saying, I agree. I think it's amazing the amount of people that we can give back to in this community. Even when it comes to like nonprofit organizations, like I love to give back. There's a organization here called Snorkel for Trash. And so, we'll go along the beach. We may, take half that time and also go out into the water and pick up trash. So I like to give people volunteer opportunities. Well, I know you just, we're speaking to Jazz, and so Jazz, does a lot in the community, and she is going to be coming out with like HOV cares, and so that's going to be another way that people can, give back to the community as well, because I do think it's important that you don't just come into a place, such as beautiful as this and just take, but that you also give something to a place that has allowed you to be here and, that is welcoming you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Stephanie and I, we were talking a lot about that on last week's live, and she's lived here for a lot of years, and just, being involved, being conscious of, even if it's that you're still getting your, roots into the ground, being able to even give back if it's possible from a financial standpoint. I think that it's key that you're always kind of consciously aware of that. One of the things that she brought up last week, this is Stephanie again, she was just like, as Black people, we want to make sure that we also come with that same thing where we want to be either a part of a volunteer situation or a donation type thing, if you're able to do that. And not be like kind of seen as just as what you said, takers, just taking all the time. And I think that a lot of us have that in our minds because maybe, and this is my personal experience, I don't know that I was really in this position so much in the US because I worked a lot of hours. I had my own business. Things cost a lot more money. And I think sometimes when your mindset is really more in a survival kind of mode on a regular basis, or just, you're enjoying life in your own little way as much as you can, it's sometimes you don't always like tap into that. And I feel that here it's definitely, easier to, I think, get into this flow. That's my personal opinion. I'm not saying this for everyone. I think that I have more time on my hands to be more conscious of what's happening around me, as I feel less stressed here. I don't feel so much stress. And that's a part of moving to Mexico. So hopefully it's less stressful for you.
Great.
Yeah, exactly. So no, this is amazing. I love what you're doing. I love the whole idea. So how do you kind of like find, we're going to still talk in a few weeks about this on the business side, but how do you kind of like recruit or find people? Are they approaching you? Are you marketing this?
Yeah, so I do market it as far as if you want to become a business that is on the website. We set it up now where if someone just wants to add their listing, their business listing, they can just simply click a button on the front page, fill out a form, and then we'll just approve it to go on the site. So, they don't even have to send an email and say, okay, here's all my information. They can just fill out the form and put it there. And it's, very simple as that. And then with the events, just sending a message and putting up their next event. And no matter what it is, I like to always say that it's going to be different for each person that comes to Playa, whether you're living here long term or you're just visiting. It's not just parties that are promoted, it's health and wellness events. There's a Bible study, a virtual Bible study every Tuesday that I like to promote, and then just events for everyone, family friendly events too. Just because I want people to know that we see you, we see your needs, we see the things that you're interested in. And I want to make sure that that this calendar has something in it for you. So,
absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. I love the diversity in it and where you're going. And I know it's going to grow. I know for sure. Yeah. And I feel that the need exists. And in the long term, people are going to benefit from having readily made access to this information and not I just find like here it's hard. It's not like in the US, you can go on Google and just hit search. Even for example, this is something to consider. I mean, you may have already considered it, is adding schools, adding things for families and things like that. Because when I was doing a research trip initially, I literally made one trip all the way from the US to here because I could not find schools. I could not find information about what schools are in San Miguel that have really detailed information or contact information. You know, and the way we do this in the US is public schools, or if there's some private schools, you can find them online. But it was so difficult for me to find information about what bilingual international schools are here. Like when I tell you difficult. And the school that kept popping up, especially when you're in the US, you get a different result from your from your search if you're not in that city. So I was getting whatever was showing up for me in Florida, and I got access to, I think it was 2 schools, Academia International, and I forget the other one was like a traditional Mexican but bilingual school, and it's because it had been around for a long time. So I started asking questions in these Facebook groups, and, you know, I got friendly responses from people, but it was all over the place. Like, it just wasn't clear to me as someone who could go to a public school setting and just find info. And I remember people were like, oh, you know, I like Arbol de Vida, which is a Waldorf school. And I like this. And I was just, and, you know, Victoria Robbins. And so when I made that research trip, I decided, okay, I'm going to take this list. I'm going to then go on Google, try to find a phone number, try to find an email. And then I think I got responses out of 5 or 6 schools. Maybe 2 people responded to me by email. So this is kind of like, you know, me saying why this is so crucial, what you're doing. Yeah. And, you know, I got 2 responses. I made appointments with those folks. And then I had to like try to call. It's like how to call, right? Even just calling into Mexico. How do I do that? And by the way, you dial 011-521 and then the rest of the phone number. Just saying. Yeah. Now I have it memorized. But, you know, it was just kind of like crazy. So when I reached to, when I got back to San Miguel, I had 5 or 6 actual setup appointments that took me a few weeks to kind of dig to find these things. And one of the schools I couldn't even go to because I didn't know the school only accepted 5th grade and up, and he was only going into 1st grade. So I remember I called them and I was like, hey, just confirming my appointment. And I was like, we were going to connect. And then I remember the girl saying something to me about the grade. And I was like, oh, he's only in 1st grade. She's like, oh, we start at 5th. I was like, okay, there's no website, nothing. Long story short, you know, we're into the 1st grade. The 2 schools that the 1st school I decided on didn't work out. So my backup school became the backup school. So we ended up going there for a couple months. That wasn't working out. And then little by little, from like meeting families and moms here, they were like, oh, have you ever heard of Ataba, which is a Montessori school? Nowhere could I find them online until I had the exact name. You know, so, you know, this is a personal experience, and I'm just sharing that with you because this is a great thing that you're doing, because it's been really like a lot of pulling teeth. And I think a lot of the information, as you said, your friend handed this list over to you, it does change very quickly. It will take time to research it. And, you know, because here a lot of places go in and out of business really quickly. But I feel that, you know, these are categories of things where if someone is new to the country or city or place, wherever it is, it's really hard to find that top layer of information initially. Obviously, with time, yes, you're going to meet others, you're going to connect with them, and you're going to have friends, and you're going to build your community. Like now I know who to call and ask questions of. You know, there's some women that are local women that are bilingual, and then some others that are Americans that have been here for 10 plus years or 20 years. And I'm just like, hey, so-and-so, you know, can you tell me where I can get blah, blah, blah. And they're like, you know, a list of things, but I can't just go online and find them. So, yeah.
No, that's so, A lot of people use, like what I've noticed with businesses, if I can't find them on the web, I'll look on Facebook, because a lot of businesses won't have a website, but they'll have a Facebook page.
Yes,
I'm like, all right, that's the first step, is just looking at their Facebook page.
No,
and
it's true.
I can find an email or their phone number or a little bit of more information about their business. But yeah, you're right. A lot of these places, they won't have a website that will give you information, like they will in the United States. So that's part.
Yeah. And I think people too, in saying all of that, that they should understand a lot of people just don't spend money on those things. They won't spend money on getting info@mybusiness.com. They will just be like mybusiness@gmail.com or whatever. So, it's really easier for you to find people on Facebook if you have the exact name, because, Facebook search is not so accurate all the time, but you'll find them on there, and then you can see whether or not they're even open, and all that stuff that's there is free for them to set up and free for you to access it. So a lot of businesses, I think, smaller or restaurants and things like this, they just don't see the value, I think, in having an actual website, because I feel like that's just the way their society works. Is like, okay, whatever. But in the US, a little different. It's sort of like, all right, if you're coming from Cali, you can kind of see what's happening in South Beach, or anywhere. You could just kind of say, oh, here's a list of blah, 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 and here's a website, and here's a Facebook page and Instagram. We're a little bit different in this regard. I think here they don't see the value in spending the money to set those things up.
Yeah. And I've been seeing that too with This Is Playa, like, because when adding in the meta descriptions under the listing, it makes Google aware of, this business. And so the businesses that don't have a website, they're not only coming up when people are searching their business for their Facebook page, they're also coming up as a listing on This Is Playa. So I've like been see that.
That's perfect.
It's so perfect. Like it's great to see.
Yeah, they'll drive more business to you. And, at some point, I'm sure you'll start getting approached by a lot of local companies that will be interested in being a part of that as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's a win-win all around.
Yeah, totally. I love it, because we're all helping each other. I'm helping them get business, and they're helping spread the word about, this resource. So it's really great. And even a few of the coffee shops here that I frequent, I have like This Is Playa stickers. And so they've allowed me to put This Is, Playa stickers.
I love it. I love what you all are doing over there. I really hope that, someone will, and maybe you will, create a channel where, you're really showing like the day-to-day movements or the week-to-week or whatever movements about this, and how, it shows from your viewpoint what you're doing and what you're into and things like that. I think it's needed. I mean, I think people are really not so like aware of how amazing Mexico is and can be, even with some of the cons, because I feel like they're limited. Like someone asked me to, and I forget who asked, one of my viewers said, can you do a video about like the underbelly kind of things, or the cons about living in San Miguel? And I literally was like, well, what's negative about living here? Because I just feel like I hear so much. I'm like, what's negative? I'm like, okay. And I have a little mini list. Like even yesterday morning, I think it was around 6 a.m, those canyons were going off, because, it's Day of the Dead weekend. I don't know what it's all about, but they're so loud. They're so loud. Like if they were a little bit closer, they would shake my house. And my house is made out of concrete. So just imagine it's like, boom, and they were going off. So I said, oh, maybe this is some footage. So I put my phone at the sliding glass door, bam, bam. But in saying all of that, I think that some of the little things that are annoying to us sometimes, the way, for example, real estate works here, signing contracts and things like that can be frustrating if you don't speak the language fluently, you don't understand the laws. Even buying land, I've been kind of like entertaining this a little bit, just looking, because I'm like, whatever's meant to be, it will be. So just, open that door and see what happens, see what you find out. And, I remember seeing a space where I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like, I like it. I like this. I like that about it. And it was just kind of like, I brought a friend, two Mexican friends, one's an architect, and one's just a good friend of ours. And I'm like, what do you think? And they're like, well, you got to think about this and where's it situated? And they pulled out their compass. And like, it was just a lot of stuff. I remember walking away thinking like, okay, maybe I just need to take my time. You know what I'm saying? So just the process can be overwhelming, but I think in time we all get to that place where we understand. We start understanding. Even with Jazz, like I love speaking to her because I like that even though she encountered some negative experience with her journey to owning this space, she just had a lot of really key things to share this morning. And I've spoken to several people about opening a business and how to over the last few weeks, but I feel like everyone's little thing is a little bit different, and having her kind of explain each step and saying, I launched 5 days ago, I opened my doors 5 days ago. And, being able to see the space, I feel like it just really gives that motivation we need that we can come. Because I had a client ask me about 6 months ago, not even 4 months ago, can he open a jazz club? And I was like, I'm sure you can, but I really didn't have a way of telling him how to do it. And I feel like these are things where people can say, oh, I watched that video and it said, do, steps 1 through 5 or step 1 through 10 and how you should go about it. So it's easy for me to now circle back and say, hey, now I have some info, like this is what so-and-so did over in Playa. And I know it probably changes from state to state, but hiring the right people and also understanding like what kind of cost are you looking to do this, like what it's going to cost you. I thought it was very fair. Like if you really are considering open a business, hopefully like, $5,000 or less is fair to you, Yeah. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Like it's gonna be less expensive than the US. Know that their prices, are probably a little high for them, but for you, definitely probably going to spend less than you would have, if you were in the US opening a business.
Absolutely.
So, be grateful for that part of it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add, and we're going to schedule to talk more about This Is Playa. We covered a lot, but we'll do a live and see if people have questions, how they can join your directory, just what your other intentions are as far as growing it and things like that. I think that this is amazing.
Thank you. No, I don't have anything to add. I really appreciate it being here, and I appreciate talking to you. Like I said, I love your platform.
Thank you.
I feel like it's helpful, so beneficial to so many people in and out of Mexico. So I'm just grateful to talk to you
so much. Well, thank you so much for reaching out to me. We'll definitely put your stuff in the description box. You guys make sure you like, subscribe, share, whatever you do out there in cyber world and YouTube. Thank you so much for watching every week and you guys taking the time to listen in. I get a lot of people telling me, oh, it should be about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I'm like, I like to talk. And so do my guests. So we just talk, and that's what we do. And if you want to turn it off and watch it later, like when you're making some dinner, go ahead, pop it on. So I'm really grateful to everyone that spends the time and, hangs out here, and all the people that have, joined, and you guys motivate me as much as I motivate, I hope, you. And, I'm so grateful. And thank you so much, Ashley, for sharing this. I think it's amazing. You all are amazing. I have to say that. I love my audience, and I really haven't gotten any kind of crazy flack from anyone. It's probably coming. But I'm just saying, like, it's been really encouraging for me as well, so, and I think what you're doing is such a beautiful thing, and it's necessary. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. So I will definitely link with you, and I'll put all the info below. And if you guys have questions or comments, you can hit Ashley up directly, or you can write it in the comment box. Thank you again for being supportive and being here. Have a amazing rest of your weekend, depending on when you're watching this. It's Friday for us, so we're going to the weekend. And by the way, enjoy Day of the Dead. I don't know if this is your first time. I don't know what your plans are, but I'm definitely planning to. Bring. I'll be like a whole different person on Monday. All right. Have a great one. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.